4 o'clock. So I will call to order the second monthly meeting of the Hendersonville City Council, March 27th, 2024. You have the agenda in front of you. Are there any changes you would like to have made to the agenda or a motion to approve?
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of approving the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it. And our other two council members are dialing in. So they are not present, but we do have a quorum of 3 to be able to vote. Next is the consent agenda. Anything you would like moved from the consent agenda, or if you have a question about it, Jamie is here. So anything, any of those special events you have a question on? Or a motion to approve?
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Not. Those in favor of the special events on the consent agenda say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Ayes have it, and those have all been approved. Okay, move on to presentations. Proposed sustainability plan. Caitlin.
All right, well, good afternoon. My name's Caitlin Jandusa. I'm the Sustainability Manager for the city. And today I'm going to present to you the Sustainability Strategic Plan. So if you're not familiar, this plan was initially started with the Environmental Sustainability Board. And then I've kind of been here a little over a year and kind of took that over, brought it to where it is today. So that's what I'm going to kind of go over with you all today. So the plan is primarily focused on municipal city operational side with some community opportunities. It includes the 5 focus areas that you see listed below, with an overall goal and corresponding actions kind of sprinkled amongst each of those goals that ideally are measurable actions that we can kind of look back on and report on as the plan comes along. And it includes an overall greenhouse gas reduction target that's over a roughly 10-year time span. So this plan as a whole is kind of over 10-year time span, and it's really meant to be a living document, so kind of updated maybe roughly every 5 years as needed, as maybe new technologies come about, maybe new city council priorities, et cetera. And then on the implementation side, this includes whatever necessary staffing, time frame, cost. I tried to give as best as I could kind of a estimation of return on investment, greenhouse gas reduction, and co-benefits such as actions that address equity or have a strong financial return, et cetera. And then, yeah, as I mentioned, the plan is really meant to be a living document. All right, so kind of looking at how the plan came to be, I mentioned it was initially started with the Environmental Sustainability Board, and then from there, I brought in various different departments and folks within the city, so looking at public services, public works, water and sewer, just trying to make sure I'm getting everyone's input and buy-in. And as well as our tree board and diversity, equity, and inclusion board, kind of reviewing everything and providing input. And then the second part of that kind of accumulation of all this is public input. So we had 2 workshops, 4 events, a survey that started in January and will close at the end of this month. And the primary purpose of the survey was really to rank these actions so that you as city council members can see what is most important to the community, especially when looking at funding, you know, where should we focus our efforts on, and also any potential programs and resources that we feel that maybe the community is missing that we could work on. And then below are just kind of a few takeaways I've gotten thus far from the survey. So community members have ranked land management as number 1, followed by water. And then 82% believe that the city should take steps to reduce our municipal greenhouse gas emissions. And then 81% were interested in some kind of yearly sustainability impact report. So I think that just goes back to ideally having this plan be measurable, reportable. So I think that kind of has a tie-in of what the community is looking for. All right. So this is just two quick definitions. I know sustainability can mean a lot of different things to different folks, different definitions. But for this purpose, sustainability is really encompassing economic vitality, environmental protection, and social equity, kind of bringing those together. So for the city of Hendersonville, we must have smart growth that is both economically sound while respecting our environment for the collective community. And then kind of what are greenhouse gas emissions? They're gases that warm the Earth's atmosphere. Some examples would be carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, fluorinated gases. All right, so now looking at the greenhouse gas assessment. So this was done in partnership with ICLEI. That's a nonprofit. They stand for Local Governments for Sustainability. So they have this Clear Path program where essentially I inputted all the city's utility data, fleet data, and that puts together this kind of holistic greenhouse gas assessment that you see on the right. It's based on a 2021 baseline, and it includes metric tons of carbon dioxide. And one thing to note is that kind of best practices with when you're doing a municipal greenhouse gas assessment is you're only including what is owned and operated by the city. So looking at solid waste, of course, Henderson County owns and operates a transfer station. So solid waste isn't included in that. But on the flip side, looking at water and sewer, which of course services much more than the city limits. So we do have that included in the assessment, which I think is no surprise that the water and sewer treatment facilities have, I think, roughly 60% of kind of the overall footprint. So for this assessment, it just comes to about 5,600 metric tons of CO2. So I think that's really just important to kind of give a benchmark of where we're starting. And then when we look at these different actions to kind of increase energy efficiency, maybe reduce fuel usage, this kind of gives us a starting off point. All right. So from that greenhouse gas assessment, we kind of had this overall goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 30% by 2035. And that is, of course, based on the 2021 baseline. And the idea there is that each of the focus areas and the actions kind of included underneath those are how we're going to get to this long-term strategic goal. Okay, so this is kind of an overview of the goals. It has kind of each of the focus areas, looking at energy, how can we increase energy efficiency, transportation, what are opportunities where we can maybe look towards low emission or zero emission vehicles, maybe looking at alternative fuels. Maybe one example is the propane vehicle pilot that you may remember that you approved a little while back. Waste management, how can we reduce the amount of solid waste by maybe looking at how we can maybe improve or increase recycling efforts, composting, et cetera. Land management, looking for opportunities to increase and enhance the city's green spaces. Looking at tree canopy cover, protecting biodiversity, promoting outdoor recreation. And then water, making sure that we have safe and reliable drinking water supply, and that we're also protecting our aquatic resources. All right, so as I kind of mentioned, you have each of these goals, and kind of under that are specific actions within each of those focus areas. So for energy, we have receive 30% of the energy that the city takes up by renewable energy sources. How can we achieve a 10% energy savings from energy efficiency upgrades? One example that ties into that is looking at how we can partner with Duke Energy, for example, that has a pretty robust rebate program. So that's one avenue that I've already explored of how we can look at energy efficiency projects while also getting money back. Establish a sustainable building policy. Transportation. How can we increase the amount of electric vehicle charging stations in the city, both for our community, but also for city departments? Reducing city fleet fuel usage by 40%. So that would be from looking at low emission or zero emission vehicles, alternative fuels. And then implementing alternative transportation plans like Walk Hendo and the bike plan that was approved a few years back. Okay, then waste management, decreasing the citywide solid waste by 15%, looking at how we can have some city compost initiatives, and then reducing our biosolids landfill waste by 67%. That's kind of on the water and sewer side. Land management, how can we increase tree canopy on city-owned property, and then also look to kind of expand and maintain, build on existing efforts to reduce pesticide and herbicide usage on city-owned property, maybe looking at pollinator efforts, enhancing and restoring city-owned natural areas and parks. And then for water, looking at increasing education and outreach on water conservation, water quality, and then protecting and enhancing the water quality of our streams and wetlands. Okay, so now we're kind of on the implementation side. Priorities of this is, of course, what actions from the public input feedback that will kind of weigh of what actions are maybe most important that we tackle first. And then for kind of looking at our goal, greenhouse gas reduction goal, focusing on the departments and areas that maybe consume the most energy and fuel usage. So one would be the water and sewer department and police department. So just kind of prioritizing those departments as maybe areas where we can look at some pilot programs and other initiatives. And then ranking criteria, I kind of touched on this earlier. So the plan that you all were provided includes the charts at the very end that touch on kind of the cost, the co-benefits, time frame, what different departments and boards are kind of involved in that. Okay, so now I kind of wanted to lastly look at 2 implementation projects. So these are 2 projects that I've been working on, as well as the Environmental Sustainability Board has been working on. So these are just for your consideration, and then at a future meeting, they'll be up for your vote. So the first one is looking at energy, and this is a building efficiency and sustainability policy. So this is one of the proposed actions under that focus area. So this is essentially kind of minimum requirements for all city-owned new construction and renovation projects. It touches on things like standards for energy efficiency, looking at kind of internal and external property usage. I think the new fire station is a great example where there's a lot of sustainability features. So this is kind of just trying to give a baseline of, for all new and renovated city construction, certain standards. And benefits would be kind of what I touched on, reduction in energy cost, kind of taking advantage of any rebates and credits that are available. And then I think this is also a great way to tie into the resolution R2153. I think that may be it up there, or a snippet of it, but just the core values and beliefs of City Council that tie into sustainability. And this was very much a collaborative effort with various different city staff. The Environmental Sustainability Board reviewed it, as well as some of the architects that the city has worked with in the past. So I gave you all a copy. You're welcome to kind of look it over. And of course, any questions or feedback, please let me know. Okay, so then lastly is a sustainability station. So this was really spearheaded by the Environmental Sustainability Board. Virginia Teagle's kind of been the main board member that's been heading this up. So the purpose of this station is really to demonstrate multiple sustainability practices that community members can implement on their own homes. With a focus on composting, it'll include the city's first kind of small-scale pilot compost drop-off location. So the map that I provided you all with a copy, and what you see here is kind of a SketchUp of how this would look. There's a proposed site that's right by the farmers market to kind of have ample access for folks that are maybe coming to the farmers market, want to drop off their compost or learn about composting. And then the board has also been seeking partnerships and exploring that. And then I just put a quick note about survey responses. 81% were interested in the city having some compost initiatives. So I think that just kind of goes back to show that this is something that the community has been interested in. So that's kind of that station project. And I believe that's it. So I guess if you have any questions, or if I can kind of go deeper into any of the areas of the plan, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you.
I was just going to thank Caitlin I know she's been working on this for a good while now, and we've given her a few hurdles here and there with comp plan and things. So thanks.
Keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
It's always good.
Thanks, Caitlin, for that. And just for the council, all three of these documents will be on your May agenda. So we'll ask you to approve the sustainability plan, approve the policy, and ultimately the composting or the sustainability station at your May 2nd agenda. But I'm sure Caitlin will answer questions tonight or afterwards after you look at it, but it'll be back on your agenda in May.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Okay. Next, police retention and recruitment update. Chief?
Well, good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. Blair Myham, Police Chief. So I want to give you an update on the current status of recruiting and retention for law enforcement here in Hendersonville. And I would go so far as to say that several of my peers around the state are experiencing some of the same challenges that I will go over with you here over the next few minutes. So
If you hold on one second, the one reason I asked the chief to do this is just one of your priority areas, and I'll talk about it a little more at the end, is public safety. So I think it's important for you to see the challenges that the chief's facing. So just kind of give you a little bit of background, and for our news media folks, just that this is an opportunity, and one of the, your second highest priority, I think, is public safety. So just wanted to give you some information about that. Sorry, Chief.
Yes, sir. So a lot of the data that I'm going to give you is technically effective Monday. We started this month with 1 sworn vacancy. We will end this month with 4. So instead of trying to differentiate the difference, these pie charts are as of Monday, actually. And so you'll see that we have 47 sworn officers. 4 of those positions are currently, will be vacant as of Monday. Those are due to retirements. We have one individual leaving to go to a private sector job to make more money. Another one is going to the community college, and the other one is going to be a stay-at-home mom. And so on the right side of the screen is our non-sworn staff. All those positions are filled. We found over the last few years that people have no problem with, actually would enjoy working for a police department. They just putting on the uniform is not really what they want to do. So we don't find too many challenges with hiring civilian staff within our police department. But and every vacancy that's on the sworn staff, we count those as police officer positions, because we will backfill. Like Captain Patton retired at the end of last month, so we will backfill his position with a police officer, because we'll make some internal promotions. But again, these numbers are as of Monday. So that's what it shows on paper. I wanted to show you kind of what it looks like on the, from the staff's perspective. So the pie chart on your right is our investigations unit. One of the individuals that left this month is a detective, so that now leaves that unit 20% short, because we have 3 general detectives left, 1 narcotics detective, and then a supervisor who carries a small caseload within that unit. The same for patrol. So what the 9 vacancies are, or the 8 vacancies there are in patrol are, we have 3 folks that are in FTO. We have, I guess that should be 4 vacancies, and then 2 of those are in BLET right now. So we won't see them until the summertime, and it'll be around December of this year before they are actually, back on the road and working by themselves. And since I prepared this chart, we did have another individual who broke his ankle fighting with someone on Friday, and so he'll be out for about 6 more weeks. So that is, another vacancy, and that turns out to be about 2 people per squad is what they're what they see on, on the street. So right now we have, if everybody comes to work, we have 7 people on a patrol squad, and our minimum staffing is 4. So currently right now, we basically have 5 people on a patrol squad, and so only one person can be off for breaking their ankle or taking a vacation and all those different things. So it's become a real challenge for us, and I'll tell you why this is. I'll show you on the next slide why this is really becoming an impact for us.
Chief, FTO is,
Field training, yes.
so those officers are riding with another officer, are riding with another officer. So basically, we have 2 officers in one vehicle in most cases, until the very end, and then they may go out on their own, I guess.
Well, yeah, so it usually takes about 3 months. I'll show that on a coming up slide about how long the field training process takes place. So, so over the last few years, I tried to pull data prior to COVID, but we didn't have that in the system. So this is, since we've moved over to Oracle, these are the applications that we're receiving for police officer by year. I will say that we did have 3 applications that have come in for 2024. That brings us up to 14. And I'm thankful that one of those positions actually put in their interest letter that they were applied to us because of our efforts with our trust building campaign. So I think maybe some of the efforts that we're doing with accreditation and things like that might help us attract some more candidates. But as you can see, there's a steady decline year to year. And again, in 2020, everybody knows what happened. The George Floyd incident obviously had a major impact on law enforcement, and the fallout from all of that has really just made law enforcement not an attractive profession. So I think the low numbers you see in 2020 are probably due to COVID, and then the steady decline. And hope, based on the numbers that we're seeing so far, maybe we're on track to be equal to 2023. But those are just very low numbers. And the type of applications that we're receiving, a good 85% of those are people with no experience, which is not a problem. We all started at some point with no experience, but on the next slide, I'll show you what that relates to us in the timeline of actually hiring someone. So tried to break this down to help it make it easy to understand. So the top arrow is someone that we would hire with experience. And this timeline is in months. You'll see the months that correspond below. And this is, not hard numbers necessarily, but this is generally what we're seeing. So we get the application process, interview process within about the first month. The background takes anywhere from 30 to 45 days, maybe 60 days. We make a conditional offer. Testing will take another 2 weeks generally, because it takes a week to get them scheduled, a week to get the results back. We will hire that person. And then we've had, in the last 12 months, the training standards went to a new system for processing police officer certifications. And for whatever reason, it is now taking 8 to 12 weeks to get an officer's paperwork back from the state before the mayor can swear them in. So used to take 2 weeks, now it's taking every bit of 2 months. And there's a lot of reasons why that is. There's backlog reasons. I don't fully understand them, but we've had many discussions with training and standards about what's going on with this, but that is just the reality right now. It may rectify itself in the future, and you can deduct 2 months off any of these timelines, but an experienced officer would go to field training, but usually an abbreviated field training of about 2 months' time. And then, so about around 8 months, they're on the road. A person with no experience, which again, 85% of the folks that we're getting who are applying have no experience, it's taking about 14 months before you see that person working by themselves. And so for every person that we lose in the department, it's a 14-month timeline generally to get somebody working on their own, filling that vacated slot. So it's become a real significant challenge for us. Some of the issues that we're seeing now is is pay. And so this chart here, some of this is difficult. I tried to compare apples to apples. So what this chart represents is the entry-level pay for each one of these positions. We are on the far left of each one of these columns in the light blue, and we compared ourselves to Asheville PD immediately to our right, Henderson County, and then Buncombe County. And so where there are vacancies there or open spots, it's because either one of the other departments didn't necessarily have an apples to apple position. So for us, we have police officer 1 through 4. Asheville has police officer 1 and senior police officer. So I kept that at a RPO2 level. And then I think Henderson County has the 4 levels of deputy that correspond with ours, but Buncombe County does not. So some of that, that's where some of those vacancies lie. But you can see that as we relate to all of our neighbors, we are lower in entry-level pay than all of our neighbors. Some of those, like Buncombe County, when, at the senior levels, they kind of skyrocket higher than most everybody. But generally, Henderson County is far ahead of really everybody in the region with respect to entry-level pay and all across the board. And so we have what you'll see, the TC1 and 2, those are our telecommunicators. We have 3 positions within telecommunicators. Asheville PD does not have those. They rely on Buncombe County, and Henderson County only has telecommunicator. They don't have multiple levels. But this is, something that our staff is talking about a lot, of course, because our nearest neighbor, Henderson County, is a couple blocks away, and they know a lot of the deputies, and they've been talking a lot about what we're seeing. And so this year. Well, when I say this year, I should say within the last 12 months, we've made a couple of job offers to people, one from Brevard, one from Asheville, and ultimately we were not able to close the deal on those individuals due to pay differences, usually about $4,000 difference, and they weren't willing to make to take that pay cut to come to us. So what I would say is. This is the takeaways that I would want you to think about for today. A couple years ago, I think I may have stood before you and talked about how important recruiting was. And this was, in probably early 22. We had about 6 vacancies in early 22. We worked real hard to hire. You actually gave us a hiring bonus, and that we used that to hire a bunch of people, and we got fully staffed. I will tell you today, our highest priority is retention, because of that 8 to 14 month timeline of backfilling a position. The people that we're getting to applying today, again, most of them have no experience, and the ones that do have experience, almost all of them have some sort of background issue that we need to work through to decide if that's someone that we're willing to hire. And my commitment is to my staff and to you and to the residents of this city is that we're going to continue to uphold our standards. We're not going to lower our standards to hire people. We will only hire the best people. I've got a background on my packet, on my desk right now that I just don't think that person's a good fit, and otherwise is qualified, but I don't want to hire someone here that's going to cause challenges for us. And so, again, losing people is a significant impact to us. It's a significant impact to public safety. One of the individuals, and Jamie and I have had some email conversations back and forth, is the person that we have assigned to downtown, and he is leaving as of the end of this month. And it will be a while before we're actually able to replace him on Main Street. I've got to make sure that we can answer 911 calls, and staffing specialty positions is secondary to our ability to just patrol the streets and answer calls. So, we will do our best to have a presence downtown in the meantime until we're able to backfill his position. But I'll just be honest, we've got 4 people that we just interviewed, and I think one of them is probably someone we'll look at hiring. The other ones I'm not real sure. So if we have 4 vacancies, I need at least 12 people going through the background phase, because some people decide they get another job within that time, or they're not a fit for us. And so we would, I mean, if I interviewed the four of them will never make it through the full process and be hired here. So I don't have any short-term things that I can say that, you know, by summertime, we're going to be good to go, because, you know, again, all the ones that we're looking at, almost all of them have no experience. They can't start until July anyway for BLET, for basic law enforcement training. So we're going to be short for the entire summer. So, and then, you know, again, retention is the highest priority, and making sure that we keep our good employees is paramount. I have no problem letting bad employees go, but we've already done that, and I don't think there's anybody like that still within the department. So it's very important for me to help y'all understand how things have really changed in law enforcement, and the challenges that we're having with the people that want to come into the profession, and how long it actually takes us to get somebody backfilled. And so, you know, we will, the ones that we know about, we plan for. I actually know that I have another sergeant. One of those folks that is leaving this month is a sergeant. I have another sergeant who plans to resign this summer to go be a paramedic. And so those are all leadership challenges that we have now. We have acting lieutenant, acting sergeant on patrol right now, just because we, you know, again, we can't start putting the cart before the horse and putting people in all kinds of positions. We still need cops to be, you know, to be out there and working the streets. So that's the main takeaways I want y'all to see from all this. I would say from our, you know, from my perspective, I think we try to control the things that we can control. I can't control when an officer wants to be a stay-at-home mom, or when somebody wants to retire, right? Those things are uncontrollable, but there are other factors that I think we can control. And we are working very hard to establish our brand within the region, and really set ourselves apart, and provide our employees with the best things that they can. We just provided them with active shooter gear, thanks to the council on the budget and some of our drug seizure funds. We were able to outfit all of our patrol officers with equipment that they could use in case of some critical incident. They have the best equipment around here. You know, we have brand new body cameras, brand new tasers. I mean, they've got good vehicles. We're really trying to provide some, you know, strong leadership to make our folks really want to work here, particularly given the fact that they could make, you know, anywhere from, you know, 5 to 15% more going to work at one of our neighbors. And so I'm very appreciative that our folks have stayed as long as they have. And so I'm concerned about going forward, because I'll be working the road soon, and I haven't taken a police report in a long time, but I can still turn the blue lights on and do what I have to. But I don't think John wants me out there doing a whole lot of police work anymore. So, questions from council? I think that's all that I have.
Questions, comments?
This is really just a matter of information, and as we get in the budget and talk, you know, our philosophy has been, and I appreciate the work the chief's done, and we've had conversations with him and his command staff, and, you know, the dilemma for me as manager, you know, our philosophy has been pay equity across the board. We're not singling out one department over another and those kind of things, and some of our peers around the state have had to do that. That's something that's on the table. It may be a recommendation that we bring to the council in the future, but, you know, as public safety being a challenge, but we felt like the most important thing is we could give you the data and let you be aware of that, and allow us to have those conversations. But so it's one of those wicked problems. So.
All I can say is I'm sorry it's that way, and that for what we can dig in and do, I sure want to help correct it. I don't like you guys being second choice or third. This one bugs me. Public safety, it's got to be at the top of the list, sharing whatever's the number one. And that's what I hear constantly from people is, you know, don't cut corners there. So you got a commitment from me for sure, and I think from everybody that gets to sit up here that we want to fix it.
Well, thank you, Jim. And I'm not a doomsdayer, y'all. I don't want to come up here and paint a horrible picture that everything's going to go crazy, but it is a real significant issue. It does become, it's still an officer safety issue. Our folks are great backing each other up, but if we get to the point, and we're there a lot, we have, during the day, during a duty day, there's a lot of sworn folks working, detectives, command staff, we're still police officers, but on a midnight shift, we'll be down to 4 people that patrol this entire city. And sometimes that's enough. The other night last night when it rained all night long, it was probably enough. But on a normal night, 4 people, they get stretched pretty thin, and they're working hard. They're answering way more calls than probably in the county as any department.
I just know y'all don't waste money, and I think it's our job to find it, and we got to do what we got to do. And it's very competitive. I hate the way police officers have been viewed and treated unfairly because of a few bad apples. But constantly, I have people asking me what we're going to do about issues, crime issues, and the things that are rolling along now. And that's on us. You guys are doing your best, and the rest of it's on us.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay. Downtown parking update.
I thought you were just here for Chief's report and we're going to leave. No, okay.
Brian, I dare him to leave because I'm going to go get him and sit him back in that chair. So if he was planning to leave.
We didn't.
Yeah.
I thought he'd forgotten how to get here.
Be nice to me, but I'm sorry.
All this
I
Zoom
need to make you the
stuff.
center.
Zoom's just too easy.
I know. All right. So, good afternoon. I'm Brian Pauly. I'm the assistant city manager, and we've got Jamie Carpenter with us here too, the downtown manager, to help me out if I go astray on anything here. But we are at our 1-year promised review of parking management. We went live with the new parking ordinance on, I believe it was March 3rd or so, somewhere around there. And so we've got 1 year's worth of data, and we are here to update you on that. We're going to talk really big picture and get really, really, really granular, and hopefully come back out on the other side just fine. So big picture, this council has been thinking creatively and ambitiously about Main Street for a very long time. If you recall, part of our conversation at the city council retreat last week was about, planting seeds for the future and preparing ourselves to support what is going on in the downtown core of the city. And we saw the Main Street MSD was established back in 1975, and here we are today with a completed parking garage and new parking management system. Some long-term history on the parking garage concept goes back a couple decades ago. We were contracting with Walker Parking Consultants at the time in 2000 to investigate the feasibility of a parking deck on 3 sites around downtown Hendersonville. Walker also did another study in 2006 for a parking deck on the Dogwood parking lot. In 2013, we've garnered feedback through survey results with over 300 participants talking about downtown parking issues and opportunities to fix those, mainly the issues being parking not being available downtown and people circling, trying to find a place to park. As a result of that, we contracted with Dixon Resources Unlimited, who conducted a comprehensive parking study for downtown, of which one of the recommendations was considering in the future the construction of a downtown parking deck and pricing parking appropriately to encourage folks to make a competitive decision on where they want to park in a free location or a prime real estate parking location. Fast forwarding to 2020, we contracted with Walker again to design and model a new parking deck on a couple different sites around the downtown core, and we eventually purchased the site across from the public restrooms on 5th Avenue. And just recently here in 2023, the parking garage opened and the new parking system was put into place. So just a fond memory of the parking triangle that we talked quite a bit about. Our goal here was to provide available and convenient parking. That was the direction we had received over the years from the various studies. It was the direction we received from the Downtown Advisory Council, and it was the direction we received from this city council on what are we going to do about the parking problems in downtown. And this is just an example of what kind of parking used to look like. We had free and convenient parking that was rarely, if ever, available. We had available parking that was pay to park a block and a half off of Main Street. And we had not always available and somewhat convenient pay to park at the inner core surface lots of the city. And so our direction was we need to expand available parking for downtown to help support it moving forward. So why prioritize available parking? Just a couple reasons here. We talk about, planting seeds and preparing for the future. We have a growing central business district that's expanding every day. It's growing into different areas of the city, including 7th Avenue, South Main Street, heading up towards North Main Street with the rehabilitation of that corridor. We know that we are going to need to provide available parking spaces for the district to encourage more shopping downtown or just doing business in our downtown. Another aspect of available parking is it promotes residential rehabilitation of the upper floors of our Main Street buildings and the redevelopment of historic buildings in downtown. Provides for commercial, convention, and event growth. So when we see potential for convention centers coming into town, our parking deck can serve as available parking for those types of events and bring people downtown to shop and do business. And it also provides us the opportunity to be agile and adaptable for changing landscapes. If you think of curb management along Main Street, some of the parallel spots that might get turned into a parklet or additional downtown seating, we have available parking available elsewhere that allows us to be agile and adapt to changing landscapes of what might be needed on Main Street in the future. Also, we received downtown advisory input throughout this process and various public meetings throughout. The initial input mostly revolved around pricing, making it competitive so folks, we would have available parking on Main Street and give people a decision point of where to park. There is free parking within a block of Main Street. If you wanted to walk the same distance it takes to walk from the parking lot in Walmart to get into Walmart, it's about the same. We also had a secondary input meeting in July, 3 months in, to talk with the downtown merchants about how it was going. Some of the big complaints we heard were around citation rates, which we were able to lower to $25. They were $50. And they talked about people wanting to expand their time in smaller increments. So we did make that change as well to go to 15-minute increments. And this is what we have today. So you can see on the right, the metered parking. The green is all throughout Main Street and the avenues from Allen to 7th. And you can also see the lots also on that picture. And then we also have our permit lots, our exterior lot for $25 a month, interior lots for $60, and the parking deck for $80 a month. So the pro forma around this. So, we put forward what we thought we were going to need to pay for this deck and the new parking management system. The deck came in at a construction cost of $37.6 thousand per space. FY24, so the year we're in right now, is our first full fiscal year of having parking management in place. We did hire more parking staff than was in the pro forma. We have 3 total parking staff, 2 enforcement officers, and 1 maintenance position. And back in August of 2021, the city council voted to allow $1 million of the general fund to subsidize the construction and standing up of this parking program. Today, we've only used about $500,000 of that. However, the general fund, from what we're seeing, is going to need to cover the parking fund in small amounts moving forward. What we found is we're hitting our revenue numbers exactly as we thought we would. However, we're having to put a little more into the expenditure side to make sure it's running well. Mainly being those staffing changes. And when we have COLAs and things like that, that is more than what was built into the pro forma. So the meat of this presentation, we're going to talk about parking occupancy. That's kind of the big question, right? So you want available parking on Main Street. So how does that look? And So we've got all the data for 1 year from March of 2023 through February of 2024, and we're going to break down how we're looking at that data. So to start, the methodology. So this is not a true observed occupancy study like we had with the Dixon report. This is based on revenue data. So we're looking at the total number of stalls, the billable hours per year, how much annual revenue you generate, and then we've broken it down from a granular standpoint because we're interested in, well, you know, how busy is it at lunch versus the evening hours versus the morning. So we have hourly revenue by stall. This is conservative. The numbers you'll see aren't going to be the true occupancy that's out on site, mainly because we're not accounting for unpaid parkers. First time period free in lots or on Main Street, so an hour or 30 minutes respectively. Special events that might close down the street, or permit parkers who might be parking in the lots and the deck that are actually occupying spaces in there. There's also some complexities for the lots and the decks. For one spot, we have a $10 max, but it's also $1.50 an hour. So one stall could be either $10 max for the day, or if 2 cars park in it, it could be $15 max for the day. So turnover impacts that. We've applied a moving average to the lots and the deck to try to account for those differences. Also, when you're looking at the data, the deck is pay at exit. The others are pay when you get there. So the deck data will be slightly delayed, right? So if you see the 4 p.m. number has a really high level of occupancy, that could be people who were there for lunch and stayed through the afternoon. And then lastly, with the Dixon study, they had these things called T-BOPs, or temporary battery operated parking sensors, that they hung up on light poles around downtown, and they read license plates, and they actually counted how many cars were downtown. So the numbers, if anyone needs to know how we got here, I just want to provide this. Essentially, the Main Street and the avenues can generate $388 per hour if every single stall is full. The lots is $136 per hour, and the deck is $148 per hour. And we're calculating occupancy by taking the revenue generated divided by the revenue per hour, or $388 per hour for Main Street, times the number of hours times the number of days. So for example,
That's per year then.
we build it out to per year, but we have it all the way down to the hour by day. So this is an example. You can see this is Main Street on August 12th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Main Street generated $375 in revenue, divided by the total potential times the number of hours in this filter and the number of days in the filter. We had 97% occupancy on Main Street and the avenues based on revenue, right? This does not account for first hour freeze or people not paying to park during that 1 hour period on August 12th. Any questions on the methodology of how we developed our occupancy number? Grain of salt to be taken with it, slightly conservative. If we want to look at real occupancy throughout downtown, we'd probably want to have some sort of study that actually counts the number of cars. That could tell us things about what we need to do for enforcement and other aspects like that. Yeah. Dixon study. Okay, go ahead, Lindsay.
Just one clarification.
Yes.
So if I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about how we're not counting people that didn't pay to park, or the free time periods, then it's probably a higher percentage of occupancy.
Correct.
Right?
Most of these are going to be slightly lower than what's actually occurring.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that my brain's processing it the right way.
That's right. And there'll be some that are actually over 100% due to turnover of spaces. So I didn't get down to the minute, just stuck at the hour. But there is the potential that some of these might be over 100%. And that's the same with the Dixon study.
The deck, 14%.
That's correct.
Is that in line with what you were?
Yeah, so our estimates were 10% for the deck, 25% for the lots, and 40% for Main Street was our pro forma. And I'll show where that landed here in a little bit. So this is Dixon circa 2015 presentation. These numbers are actually for late 2020 or 2014 season. And this was with the T-BOP, so they went out there and they were tracking the number of vehicles in each block for the number of spaces and calculating occupancy. You can see the afternoon was the busiest time. They came peak leaf well, it's called peak leaf. I don't, it's probably changed, every year, but this was late October. And then also this was a Rhythm and Brews Thursday and a Friday for the September visit. And you can see the average occupancy for the Rhythm and Brews day, those 2 days, was 49%. So you take the morning, afternoon, and evening. The total average is 49%, using the actual cars in the stalls, parking sensors, calculating that. Same period of time for 2023, September Rhythm and Brews, Thursday and Friday, we were at 45% occupancy for all the lots in Main Street.
Using your methodology.
Correct, so it's slightly low. Lot historical, so this is from FY 22, July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 22. The historical occupancy of our paid lots on average was about 25%, with some of the low lots at 15% and the highest in October at 36%. Caveat, this does include Dogwood lot, and that has changed moving into the new system. Dogwood is permit only now, outside of Sundays. The parking occupancy for our lots for 2023 under our methodology was 26% for the year. Our October was a little low. It was about 33% for October for the lots. So I think it's just good to compare to see, especially what was going on in this time period. This was a really high growth post-COVID, post-vaccine time period. If you remember the occupancy tax data we showed at the budget retreat last week, this is that very high visitation year for that upper data. So I do want to just show some of the reporting. I'm going to go over to my desk just to give the folks an idea of how we can look at all this data, and then I'm going to come back and talk about some examples real quick. All right, so this has all of our parking data. So this is our report. We can filter by hour in the top left, and we can filter by date on the left side as well. The second one on the left, this is the entire year. So over the entire year, blue is Main Street, green is the lots, red is the deck, and the dark blue is our average occupancy. So if you remember our numbers from before, we were using 40, 25, and 10. So we slightly beat on all of these from the pro forma. So we were like $9,000 over our estimate. So it was very close from a revenue perspective. So Main Street for the total year, all hours of the day, is occupied 40% of the time. The lots were 26%, and the deck was 12%. On average, 26% occupancy for the year, generating about $850,000 in revenue. Along the bottom, you can see just how that tiers out by month. It's starting in March of 23, blue bars being the deck. So in March, it generated $45,000. In July, it generated $58,000. In January of 24, Main Street generated $37,000. And essentially what you can do if we wanted to get extremely granular, we can go just look at the lunchtime hour, and you can see how it performed over the year. If you want to go to just a specific day, you could go to like July 15th of 2024. I'm sorry, that's the 22nd. And you can see, really strong occupancy for the lunchtime hour in July, and the deck and the lots. So I'm going to come back to the presentation. I just wanted to show where we're keeping the data and what you can do with it. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about available parking. So we filtered the report for Apple Festival. You can see the deck was slam packed pretty much the whole time. And that's generated about $15,000 in revenue and provided 253 new spaces to support that downtown event during the Apple Festival in September of this past year. Another example, this is a Saturday lunch hour in July. You can see Main Street was 99% occupied. The lots were churning over more than the granularity of my report gets into, so they were showing 130% occupied. They were pretty much full. And the deck here, what we're seeing, the benefit of available parking, it was 33% full. So that's like 90 spaces, 90 additional cars that were able to come and go downtown that would not have been able to go downtown prior to the parking deck, with average occupancy of 87%. So supporting events, supporting big rush hours, and then a rainy Tuesday lunch in January. This was a 3 to 4 inch rain event, and you can see the people parked in the parking deck and enjoyed the covered aspect of getting around downtown. So another just advantage of the type of available parking we're offering for our downtown resources. So again, just 1 year in review, we were about 40% in total for Main Street, right in line with our pro forma. The lot's 26%, the deck 12%. And lastly, I just want to hit, we also saw kind of unexpectedly, I thought there might be some of this, but to the extent that it's occurred is very extreme. Customs cleaners across the street just started charging for parking. I had to blame you at some point. We've seen a lot of activation of private parking lots. So lots that sat vacant and empty for many years are now available, again, hitting at the need for available parking to support growing downtown businesses. We have a lot more available resources through private lots as well. I think there's opportunities there. I think we need to study that a bit more over the next year and see what's actually going on. But I think there's opportunities there for the city. Again, our actuals were $9,000 over the estimate, which is great. We wanted to make sure we hit that. And more parking resources were available to support downtown activities throughout the year. $9,000 over our estimate, yeah. It was that close.
You're showing off.
Maybe. Another huge aspect of this, kind of the unsung hero that we don't see day to day, are parking permits. I'm going to talk a little bit about managed inventory and real inventory, but so far our permit sales are, we have 73 of 100 permits sold for the deck, 87 interior permits. That's like apple lot, maple, spruce, azalea. Those are all classified interior. If you have one of those permits, you can park in any of those lots. 87 of 100 of those permits have been sold, and exterior 233, kind of what we're trying to target for our employees and our residents, or frequent flyers of downtown, $25 a month. We have sold 233 of 250 of those available permits. So 393 total permits sold. And when you look at what we used to do versus what we're doing now, this is a huge advantage for downtown. We used to have 170 permits, and we sold them one car, one space for most of all the lots. So our managed inventory was not great, and we had a 250 plus person waiting list to get parking permits downtown. And likely what they were doing was finding other places to park downtown to go to work, which would be on avenues or on Main Street or in the free parking on Church Street. Right now, we're managing the lots at 142%, so we have a lot more permits available, 443 total at the time when we developed this slide. I think we've bumped that up to about 450 now. Yeah, we're at 450 now, permits available. So this is huge for our downtown. It's supporting employees, supporting residents, supporting people to be able to get a permit and have a known place to park, and just go to their job or go to their residence in downtown Hendersonville, without clogging up prime real estate for potential, more transient visitors to downtown. Got a shout out to our communications and our downtown team. They did a ton of communicating on this. If you didn't know what was going on, you weren't paying attention enough. But I did just want to highlight the use of Park Mobile coupon codes. Those have been really useful for us to try to help people get used to the new system. And also it's a way, I know there's the input, and we'll talk about that in a second, around like resident discounts and things like that. We were trying to do that through providing free parking sessions through coupons. Additionally, in the messaging and info, we've really been pushing the ease of use for Park Mobile and the parking garage. If you have any confusion about it, go park in the parking garage. It's the simplest approach. You don't have to work with a kiosk. You don't have to work with your phone. but we do have a variety of payment and parking options. We've also highlighted the locations of free parking just outside the district. We've taken a first violation warning approach to help educate people rather than penalizing them right out of the gate. And we did a winter free coupon event where we sent out free coupons in the water bills, and we had about 782 coupons used as of February, equating to about $2,700. Areas for improvement. Some things we've heard throughout the year are potentially creating permit structures for large buyers. So right now, if you buy a permit for your employee, we give 3 tags, I think, or 2 to 3 tags per permit. I don't remember. I think it's 3, but I'd have to look. And they're having to manage who's on that permit. For small, shops, that's easy. However, when you get into really large shops, they're saying, hey, look, if I can show you that I've bought enough permits based on the number of like W-2s I have in my system, can I stop having to move people around on the permits to make sure they're parking legally when they're parking in the lot? And so that's one thing we're looking into. Uptime for kiosks, we've seen a lot of issues with the cash and coin approaches to payment. We are going to pilot a couple kiosks for just credit only and let that run for a year. And that way we can see if that is truly the issue that we're seeing with the kiosks. If we can come back and say, look, this credit only kiosk was up 95% of the time compared to this one, and cash and coin, we're keeping it down, 30% of the time, then we can bring that to council, and council can make a policy decision if we want to continue with cash and coin options. I think it's important that we do provide it. However, it is causing some challenges for the technology aspect of it. Payment option clarity versus flexibility. So these you don't have both, right? It'd be nice to have a very clear payment option, but we're also trying to give people as many options as they can, from mobile devices to text to pay, to just pulling in the garage and swiping your debit card, to going to the kiosk to pay. So we've gone with the flexibility route. However, that oftentimes causes people to, post online, hey, I don't know what to do down here. There's too many different options. And so we're trying the best we can with messaging to help clear that up, but oftentimes these are pulling against each other. So we're just going to continue to try to educate folks on the easiest and best ways to park. And then we know there's the opportunity for volunteer parking assistance ambassadors to help people downtown. That could also help with the clarity issue we might have. Other discussions we've heard are slow season discounts, the first hour being a grace period versus actually a free period. Based on the model, we cannot do any of that. And rate changes based on the model right now, we are not in a position without subsidizing further from the general fund any rate changes to the model. It needs to kind of run for a little while and pay the general fund back eventually. And we're seeing a lot of other economic factors that I think are playing into the economy as a whole and downtowns across the region. We've been looking at our placer data for Brevard and Chimney Rock and Biltmore Village and other areas. They are all also similarly down. Biltmore Village is really down. None of them were as up as we were with the visitors post-COVID boom. You all also saw the occupancy tax and the sales tax slides. I'm not going to show any of those today, but we painted a good picture of where the economy is at the last meeting.
Chimney Rock was up, but if you've ever tried to park in Chimney Rock, you probably know that parking has not been an impact on that. And it's paid parking, I believe, there. Mm-hmm. But everything else is down.
Thanks, Jamie. So just in summary, we have made the decision to prioritize available and convenient parking to support our growing business district. And we'll stand by for any questions. Or if you want to see any particular time of day or day of the week, we can look at it.
So you skimmed over it pretty quick, but it sounded like you weren't going to recommend that we could change the grace period to a free period. I am wondering if we can get some more information on that, just because I think that's a huge issue for people. They don't understand it. They can't figure out what's going on. And so if it were to be free, I think that might be a little bit easier pill for them to swallow. And I'll bring it up again, but some passes, however we do it, I don't know. But for residents and or even county residents that they could prepay and like have a lower rate, I think that would go a long way with people that clearly are still very upset that they have to pay to come into park.
It's good feedback.
But then you still have a budget deficit if we're doing that.
Yeah, the first hour
Yes.
free is challenge. It's either you'd probably either just want to eliminate the grace period if the confusion is that painful. But that we're not going to be at a point revenue wise to support a drop like that anytime in the next 5 years, unless this is a super slow year and the next few years parking revenue does much better than expected. But the numbers we're seeing right now, we're not going to have much flexibility in rates.
I mean, the only way really to afford,
Payment.
unfortunately, the only way really to afford to do that is you got two options. You either raise the rates to cover the free time,
Correct.
or the citizens of Hendersonville subsidize it with tax dollars to give more free time to everybody. Those really, I see, are kind of your options there. Unless the occupancy numbers really start
Improving, yeah.
improving. And one point I want to make, Brian and I he's worked really hard on, as you can tell in this data this week. We're really still in the infancy of this parking program. I mean, we're 1 year in, still lots to work through, as far as it relates to enforcement, related to just in general. And I think what you see with the beauty of this is that you've got plenty of occupancy or capacity in the deck that really is going to give you flexibility in your downtown and in the overall parking as you go forward. There are going to be opportunities that are going to raise themselves up for the council, whether that be more development opportunities, like still would like to have another downtown hotel. So you've got that capacity in the deck to do that. It may open up some property that you have that we can move parking off of, down, if the council so wants to, move parking off the Dogwood, put it in the deck. You've got that capacity to do that, and then maybe use the Dogwood lot as something else. I mean, not advocating for any of that right now, but you looking into the future, you've set yourself up really nice to make some, this has been a transformative decision, and again, we're very much in our infancy, but it'll give you some flexibility as you look to the future.
Yeah, you're ahead of the game rather than being behind the 8 ball. If something were to come and want, hey, I need available parking to make this big rehabilitation of this historic structure work, you have now an option to say, hey, we have parking for you. To the second point on discounts for locals, we've been talking about that a lot, and Jamie has some ideas, but we'll bring further to you. But
Yeah, one thing we might be able to do is we're able to test it with the validation or the parking coupon codes with Park Mobile, and that went out with water bills and basically pass out to everyone. And so we might be able to do away with the Friends to where it's sold and the Friends kind of subsidize a certain amount. We'll have to figure out the amount we can handle with it based off the amount of people who would buy it. But that's something that we might be able to do. That it would the requirement would be it'd have to be on Park Mobile because we don't have a way of doing that with the kiosks. So they'd still have to go through the whole process of checking in, putting their license plate number and everything like that. But ideally, they'd figure that out and realize that the app is one of the easier ways to do it if you're parking downtown.
thanks, Jamie.
One thing I kept, and it's not nearly as much now or as often, I used to get jammed up a lot about, I don't know how to use the app. And I started just saying, use the no-tech deck. Just use the deck. And a week ago, a lady just was lighting me up over, and I said, why don't you use the deck? And she had no idea. So I know you've done it, but I don't know how you get it out enough.
I think it has, if you look at that, so peeling through all the data and stuff, the deck steadily increased in occupancy over the months. So I think as people have started to learn it, they're starting to use it more.
There are still people that don't know that we have a parking deck, which I really cannot believe, because like you said, I think we've advertised it to death. But I also think a lot of the advertising we've done has been digital or in the downtown vicinity. And so people who are not regularly coming down don't really see any of that. And so I don't know if there's something we can do. Like, I think the parking ambassadors would help, because then when people are struggling, then they can catch them and be like, hey, here, let me show you how to do it. If there's more education we need to give to the downtown business owners, because I think they struggle a little bit to communicate with the patrons in downtown about how to use the parking system and where the best place to go is and what the rules are. And so I don't know if we need to set up like a meeting with them, or maybe we can go over also some of these other economic factors that are going into things, just because there seems to be still a lot of misconceptions around the parking. And so I feel like the more information we give them, the better, because it seems to me like the businesses in downtown that have a good grasp of the system seem to be having less issues with their customers not wanting to buy into it.
Maybe a sheet of frequently asked questions, and this is how you answer it. If people complain about this, this is what you say. That all the merchants have that. Yeah. Well, I think we did too good a job on the parking deck. It doesn't look like one.
Yeah.
So people just drive right by.
I think you're right about that.
Banners.
You got some big.
We actually did talk about that during
Yeah,
design.
great big
Big old.
plastic sign, park here.
We do have banner opportunities still. We have 2 things that we could put up there that call it out a little more, so.
If, just some data, if you could find it. If we eliminated paying for parking, I know we go back to that, well, then there's no parking on Main Street. How much would the tax rate have to go up to cover the costs of parking?
Yeah, it would.
For the downtown district in particular?
Downtown
Or-
district,
or
like the
city,
downtown
yes,
tax
the
rate?
actual
or-
town, as well as the city as a whole.
Okay, let me look.
You
So
can-
I can tell you city. City would be 2 pennies for just Main Street. That's assuming the deck and the lots still generate their revenue at the level we're seeing. So that's 2 pennies. Main Street, that's gonna be a brutal number.
You knew this question was coming.
Barbara, we know what your stuff. Rumors now.
50 pennies for down.
50?
Yeah,
Just if you do, just using the MSD.
just the MSD.
Just the MSD.
Yeah, that's what I was asking
Yeah.
about.
Holy
They're the people who are
smokes.
complaining. So if they want it free, we can kick up their tax rate to cover it.
That is an option.
I mean, I think that that's another good point to make, is that the parking prior to us instituting paid parking was never free. It was never free. It was just free to the end user.
Correct. And I think there's a good point there too. We have talked with the downtown group about, they've wanted to look into, well, can we raise our taxes to buy that first hour free? And we can have all sorts of data on that type of information for them.
Okay. Any other questions right now?
Can we play with that fun little dashboard?
Yeah, I'll send it to everybody. It's not ready for like public website.
But I won't
content
share
yet,
it.
But
I won't share, but I
I'll
want to
send
play with
out,
it.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
Yeah. All right. Review of council staff retreat priorities.
like
What
this
did
was
we do a week or so ago?
You already forgot? It was great. Mr. Moss, feel free to leave. I mean, if you need to leave.
Where's your hat?
Oh, I forgot my hat, my overalls. Mayor, vote members of the city council, thought I'd just take a few minutes and just kind of give a brief recap of your retreat. and your prioritization that you did. And I shared the report with you in the agenda package updated, and I'll share these slides too. So I'll ask if Allison or somebody will pop up my presentation there. They're looking for it. It's in there, isn't it? There, no.
They're looking at each other. Going, I thought you had it.
Do what? I have to stall? Okay. Well, I'll remind you that we did some prioritization and we added a couple of extra categories to the prioritization, and really focused on public safety. Also, we adjusted the public infrastructure piece as it relates to, it had public utility infrastructure. Now it's public infrastructure. So, so it should be there. Tri-City Council agenda. Sorry, I put it in the wrong folder, Allison.
Oh, yeah, John took 3 people.
I know. So
That's fine.
we got too much technology and too many folders. I think we're there. There we go. Thank you, Allison. You got to teach the city manager some days. So yeah, just the retreat, which was focused on planting seeds for the future. One piece we introduced at the retreat, and something that the public will see going forward, is really the strategic planning. We've been doing a lot of strategic planning, but really wanted to formalize that. And this came out of our budget team and Brian and Allison, and want to be more transparent about our goals and also how we're doing with our goals. And so we introduced this terminology using the planting the seed is something that is a seed goal is something that's very infinite, very, very young, just getting started. You use the seedling goal as we've made some progress. There's still larger steps to be taken, as you can see there. Sapling would be a goal that is well on its way of being achieved, and funding and staffing are available to bring this goal to life. And then tree is when the goal's been achieved and ready. So using those labels, we'll use that as part of our transparency efforts and our strategic planning, strategic report that we'll start publishing at the end of each fiscal year. So just want to, again, put out that nomenclature. You can see there how we'll use that. And really, I think it is, I think, something we're very proud of and something that'll be very much appreciated in the community. We did ratings. You did your dot voting results, updating your goal areas, and you see here we had 10 goal areas that we included. And today I'm going to focus on the first 5, the top 5 on the left. Those are the areas that received the most dot voting there from our priority area, and that's what we'll use to develop your budget. Your top 5 being strong infrastructure. That previously said strong utility, but council was focused that we want all our infrastructure strong. So use that as number 1. Compensation, benefits, and staff development was number 2. Public safety is 3. Our strategic housing plan is 4, and then growth management and community character rounded out the top 5. So those will be the top 5 areas. We'll still be working on the areas in the 6 through 10. Those are still lots of good projects and initiatives in those areas, but as it relates to budget prioritization, you'll see there we'll focus on the top 5 from council prioritization. Starting there, just give you some examples of how we will use this prioritization from budget implementation. Strong infrastructure, you'll see some accomplishments council recognized there. For 2023, we have the French Broad Raw Water Intake project that's well on its way, and we finished this summer. We have the solids management grant, which will help us meet some of Caitlin's sustainability goals there as it relates to solids management. And we only had 2 SSOs last year, so that's something we're very proud of, improving our wastewater system. Some of your goals for 2024, things that you'll see in the budget, we include your 7th Avenue streetscape, well on the way there. Mike Huffman will continue with stormwater improvements. We have a number of water and sewer projects. And two projects at the bottom that we shouldn't forget is, as it relates to, City Hall is really a strong piece of public infrastructure, and we don't always think about it because it's a building, but really is, I think the City Hall is, as I mentioned, I look at it as the foundation of our city government. And so we'll have exterior renovations, basically repointing the brick, making sure that it is watertight, and also we've be completing our customer service renovations, which will open back the ground floor there that will make it very friendly for our customers, and they no longer have to go to the third floor to pay bills or set up utility accounts or anything really. We can handle everything on the first floor. So,
What's the anticipated completion date of that?
City Hall is it August? Are we at August?
We're at July for
July.
the downstairs, and then we'll do some minor renovations on the third floor after that.
Yeah, so City Hall opened back up. It's interesting, working on a 100-year-old building, we came across some things we weren't expecting. So, but it will be structurally sound, trust me. That's some of the noise you hear is improving some of the structural columns. Second category, your second priority is their budget as it relates to composition, benefits, and staff development. Focuses there really on, you see your accomplishments in 2023, paid family leave, 401k match, excellent family benefits. Goals for that you'll see in the budget is a 4% COLA. There will be funded to, we talked a lot about a living wage for our folks last week. We'll be funding retirement contribution increase that is mandated by the state. We're seeing our medical insurance premiums increase by 4%. We're seeing our utilization that exceeds that, so we're very proud of only having that 4% increase. Also seeing that we are switching to a new insurance company. Aetna will be our new provider, and they have, I think we're pretty happy with what HR is seeing from Aetna and some of the opportunities there and some of the things that are going to be available that are not currently available under our current provider. So I think that's going to be a very positive move with a relatively small increase in our medical insurance. And then we're also working on a new performance management system and career ladders, and you'll hear more about that. Staff is spending a lot of time doing that to make sure we're, staff development is important, and not only are they getting paid well, we're providing good benefits, but also they're providing a great level of service, and we want to make sure that we have those discussions to make sure they do the job at a high level, which they do. Third is public safety. A couple of accomplishments there, ISO 1 rating, professionalism, modernization of the police department. We're moving through the CALEA process. I know the chief is a priority for chief, and we'll complete Fire Station 1 here in the next 90 days or so. So that'll be a great accomplishment. I think our goals for the current year, as you heard the chief, is employee retention and recruitment in the public safety areas. That also includes fire. We want to maintain that ISO 1 rating. And I think citywide, one of our opportunities here, and I think Councilman Miller alluded to it a little bit, is we want to improve our homeless and mental health response countywide. It's just not a homeless issue. It's mental health in general. We'll have, the mayor heard a report today at Land to Sky about social workers being embedded in the police department. We're in line to do that beginning in the fall. So that is a goal. You'll hear more about that in the future. But really, public safety is, from an operational piece, is very important, and we heard that from the council. Strategic housing plan. You have your accomplishment with the grant. Angie and Lou and Angie worked on $100,000 to put that committee together and do a strategic housing plan, which is one of your goals. We've got the committee together already. Working with Apple Ridge, which is HAC's partnership. There'll be other things we can do. Code enforcement, we heard about commercial building code, and making sure we're addressing buildings that are substandard and need some TLC. And then final category, the fifth category being growth management and community character. Well on our way on the comprehensive plan. I put the Lower Ecorn Mini Golf because while that is a park, I think it is symbolic of our community character, an important piece of our history and what our city stands for. Parks and Recreation Master Plan was completed, as well as the Downtown Master Plan. In the 2024 budget, again, I put the 7th Avenue Streetscape because that talks to culture and community character on the 7th Avenue, but also we're working on the Above the Mud Greenway, strategic housing plan, and then you'll start seeing in 2024 some initial land use changes and regulations that will help us with some overlay zoning and addressing some of our initial concepts out of our comprehensive plan. It'll take a little bit longer to update our zoning ordinance and subdivision to get a complete rewrite of those two documents, whether that's a unified development ordinance or can we keep it, take a little bit longer, probably into 2025, 2026, but we'll start seeing initial land use changes. And I know code enforcement's important too, So that is just an update of the top 5 priorities there, and I'm glad to answer any questions. We thought it was a great day, a great retreat, lots of heavy information on Thursday, a lot of data that is available, but also we thought Friday was a good session. So stand by to answer any questions.
Thoughts? Okay, thank you. Wow, 4 presentations. I thought we'd be here until at least 6 o'clock. You guys did great. All right, we are at the end of our